Yun stood at the old wooden gate of her grandmother's farmhouse, her breath making small clouds in the cool autumn air. The sun was setting, painting the sky in beautiful orange and pink colors. She held a small silver cube in her hand, the key to her inheritance. The cube glowed softly as it read her fingerprints. The gate opened with a gentle creak. Walking up the stone path, Yun remembered coming here as a little girl. Back then, Earth was just beginning to welcome visitors from other worlds. Now, after 50 years of space travel, humans lived on many different planets. Yun was known across the galaxy as one of the best chefs who still cooked real food. Most people now ate food made by machines or took nutrition pills. But Yun believed in the old ways of cooking, just like her grandmother had taught her. The farmhouse looked exactly as she remembered it. The wooden walls were dark with age, and the roof tiles were covered with red and orange leaves. Her grandmother had refused to change anything about the house, even when new technology became available. "Some things are worth keeping the same," she used to say. Inside, the house was clean but dusty. Yun's footsteps echoed on the wooden floor. The kitchen, her grandmother's favorite place, waited for her at the end of the hall. Old copper pots hung from the ceiling. A large wooden table stood in the middle of the room, its surface marked with countless knife cuts and burn marks from hot pots. "House system, activate," Yun said clearly. Small lights came on around the room. A gentle voice responded, "Welcome home, Yun. I am Bom, your home assistant. Your grandmother programmed me to help you." Yun smiled. The voice was warm and friendly, just like her grandmother's. "Thank you, Bom. Can you show me what's in the garden?" The kitchen window became a screen, showing the large garden behind the house. Some parts of it were traditional, rows of vegetables growing in dark soil. Other parts had modern growing pods, where special vegetables for alien visitors could grow. "Your grandmother prepared everything for you," Bom said. "She knew you would continue her work of bringing people together through food." Yun walked to the window and touched it gently. The garden looked beautiful in the evening light. She could see the hills beyond, where the trees were turning golden and red. A small transport ship flew far overhead, its lights twinkling like a star. She opened her bag and took out her grandmother's old cookbook. The pages were yellow with age, filled with handwritten recipes and notes. Some were hundreds of years old, passed down through generations. Yun had added her own notes too, with adjustments for cooking Earth food that alien visitors could eat and enjoy. "Bom," she said, "let's clean the kitchen. I want to start cooking tomorrow." As she spoke, she noticed something interesting. Her grandmother had left one last message. It was written on the first page of the cookbook in careful handwriting. "Dear Yun, this house has always been more than just a place to live. It's a place where different beings can come together and share in the simple joy of a home-cooked meal. Now it's your turn to keep this tradition alive. Love, Grandmother." Yun felt tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. She would invite friends, both human and alien, for a special dinner. It would be a perfect way to honor her grandmother's memory and begin her new life in the old farmhouse. As night fell, the house seemed to come alive with possibilities. The kitchen, with its mix of old tools and new technology, was ready for its next chapter. Yun could almost smell her grandmother's cooking in the air, and she couldn't wait to add her own recipes to the house's long history. The next morning, Yun sat at her grandmother's old desk, looking at her communication screen. She needed to plan her dinner party carefully. Her fingers moved across the screen as she thought about who to invite. First, she called her old friends Do-hyun and Jida. Do-hyun worked as a quantum mechanic, fixing spaceships that could travel between stars. Jia taught at the local school, helping both human and alien children learn together. The screen showed their faces, and they smiled when they saw Yun. "We would love to come to dinner," Jia said. Then she paused for a moment. "Yun, we have some special guests staying with us. They are luminarians, Beings made of pure light and energy. Would it be all right if they came too? Hei-yun's eyes widened with interest. She had cooked for many different alien species, but never for luminarians. They didn't eat food the way others did. This would be a new challenge. Of course they can come, Hei-yun said. How many are there? A family of 4, Do-hyun explained. The parents and 2 children. They're scientists studying Earth's sun. Their children are very curious about human customs. After ending the call, Hei-yun walked to the kitchen. Bom, she called to the house eye. What do you know about luminarians? Bom's gentle voice filled the room. Luminarians come from a star system very far from Earth. They feed on energy directly from stars. They have never needed to eat solid food, but they can experience sensations similar to taste through different energy patterns. Hei-yun opened her grandmother's cookbook and started making notes. She would need help to make this dinner special for everyone. She called Kita, an old classmate who had become a xenogastronomist, someone who studied how to make Earth food safe and enjoyable for different alien species. Keita appeared on the screen, sitting in his lab surrounded by strange cooking equipment. His face lit up when Hei-yun explained her plan. This is fascinating, he said. I've been working on a way to convert the essence of food into energy patterns. We could use this to let the luminarians experience your cooking in their own way. I'll send you the equipment right away. As Hei-yun waited for Kita's delivery, she walked through her grandmother's garden. The morning sun made everything look fresh and bright. She picked some vegetables for the dinner: crisp lettuce, firm radishes, and sweet potatoes. The modern growing pods hummed softly, nurturing special vegetables that could safely be eaten by various alien species. The delivery drone arrived at noon, bringing Kita's special equipment. It looked like a set of crystal bowls that glowed with soft blue light. Each bowl had tiny sensors that could read the essence of food and convert it into energy patterns that luminarians could experience. Hei-yun spent the afternoon testing the equipment. She placed a piece of kimchi in one of the crystal bowls. The bowl glowed brighter, and patterns of light danced above it, showing the spicy, tangy flavors as waves of energy. Your grandmother would have loved this, Bom said. She always said that good food brings people together, no matter where they're from. Hei-yun smiled as she sent the final dinner invitations through the communication system. The message was simple. Please join me for a traditional Earth dinner at the old farmhouse. All beings welcome. Tomorrow at sunset. As the sun began to set, Hei-yun looked at her guest list with satisfaction. Tomorrow, her grandmother's farmhouse would host a dinner unlike any it had seen before. The kitchen would serve both traditional Earth food and energy patterns for beings of pure light. It would be exactly what her grandmother had always wanted, a place where anyone could feel at home, no matter what form they took. The old farmhouse seemed to glow with warmth in the evening light, ready for its new role in bringing together friends from across the stars. The morning of the dinner arrived with a gentle autumn breeze. Hei-yun woke up early, watching the sunrise paint the sky in soft colors. She had much work to do before her guests arrived. Bom, please start the morning checks on the garden systems, Hei-yun said as she dressed in her traditional cooking clothes. Her grandmother's old apron still hung by the kitchen door, and Hei-yun put it on with care. All systems are working well, Bom reported. The temperature in the growing pods is perfect. The special vegetables for our alien guests are ready to be harvested. Hei-yun stepped into the garden. The morning dew made everything sparkle. She carried her grandmother's old woven basket, walking between the rows of vegetables. She picked the freshest ingredients: crisp lettuce, firm mushrooms, and sweet carrots from the traditional garden. From the modern growing pods, she collected blue star peppers and silver moonroofs, vegetables that had been created specially to suit different alien digestive systems. Inside the kitchen, Hei-yun arranged her ingredients on the big wooden table. The crystal bowls Kita had sent glowed softly, ready to transform her cooking into energy patterns for the luminarian family. Your grandmother used to sing while she cooked, Bom said. Would you like me to play her favorite cooking song? Yes, please, Hae-yeon replied. Soft music filled the kitchen as she began to prepare the food. She worked with both old and new tools, her grandmother's knife for cutting vegetables, and a modern separator that removed any molecules that might harm her alien guests. As the morning turned to afternoon, wonderful smells filled the old farmhouse. Hae-yeon made traditional Korean dishes, rice cooked in the old stone pot, soup with hand-cut vegetables, and kimchi that her grandmother had taught her to make. For her alien guests, she prepared special versions of these dishes using the safe ingredients from her garden. The most challenging part was preparing something for the luminarians. Hae-yeon placed small portions of each dish in Ki-ta's crystal bowls. The bowls analyzed the food and created beautiful patterns of light and energy above them. Each dish made different colors and shapes. The spicy kimchi created bright, sparking patterns, while the soft rice soup made gentle, flowing waves of light. The energy patterns are stable and safe, Baum confirmed. The Luminarian children will be able to experience the essence of your cooking without any risk. In the late afternoon, Hae-yeon cleaned the old wooden floors and arranged cushions around the low table, just as her grandmother used to do. She placed the traditional dishes on one side and the modified alien-safe dishes on the other. The crystal bowls went in the center, their light patterns dancing in the air. Looking around the room, Hae-yeon felt proud. The farmhouse looked beautiful. Modern technology worked together with traditional elements to create something new and special. Through the windows, she could see the autumn leaves falling gently in the garden. Your grandmother would be very proud, Baum said softly. You have honored her traditions while making them work for a new age. Hae-yeon touched her grandmother's old cookbook, which sat open on the kitchen counter. The pages were worn with use, but the writing was still clear. She had followed these recipes today, adapting them carefully for her special guests. As the sun began to set, Hae-yeon lit the old paper lanterns outside the house. Their warm light would guide her guests up the stone path. Everything was ready. Soon, her grandmother's farmhouse would host a dinner that brought together beings from across the galaxy, united by the simple pleasure of sharing a meal together. Ki-ta arrived early at the farmhouse, carrying additional equipment for the evening's special dinner. He walked up the stone path as the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the garden. Hae-yeon welcomed him at the door, grateful for his help with the evening's unique challenge. We should test the crystal bowls one more time, Ki-ta said, placing his equipment carefully on the kitchen counter. Luminarians are very sensitive to energy patterns. Everything must be perfectly balanced. Hae-yeon watched as Ki-ta adjusted the settings on each crystal bowl. The bowls hummed softly, creating beautiful patterns of light above the prepared dishes. However, something wasn't quite right with the kimchi's energy signature. The pattern flickered unstably, its usual bright sparks appearing dim and uneven. There's a problem, Ki-ta said, frowning at his readings. The energy conversion isn't strong enough. The Luminarian children might not be able to experience the full taste of your cooking. Hae-yeon thought about her grandmother's teachings. When food doesn't taste right, she would say, go back to the basics. Hae-yeon opened the old cookbook and turned to the kimchi recipe. She noticed something interesting in her grandmother's notes. Look at this, she said to Ki-ta. My grandmother wrote that the strength of flavor comes from how the ingredients blend together over time. What if we adjust the crystal bowls to read the food's energy in layers, like how the flavors develop? Ki-ta's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. We can recalibrate the sensors to read the deeper energy patterns. He began working quickly, making careful adjustments to each bowl. Baum's voice joined their discussion. I have records of your grandmother's original kimchi recipe. The fermentation process creates distinct energy signatures at different stages. Shall I display this data? Yes, please, Hae-yeon said. Baum projected a detailed chart showing how the kimchi's flavors developed over time. Ki-ta used this information to fine-tune his equipment. They tested the crystal bowls again. This time, the energy patterns were stronger and clearer. The kimchi's signature now showed as a beautiful dance of red and gold light, swirling like autumn leaves in the wind. Perfect, Kita said, checking his readings one final time. The Luminarian children will be able to experience these dishes just as clearly as their parents experienced starlight. Hei-yun thanked Kita for his help. As he prepared to leave, he paused at the door. Your grandmother would be proud, he said. You're not just preserving her recipes, you're helping them reach across the stars. After Kita left, Hei-yun did one final check of everything. The traditional dishes were keeping warm. The modified alien-safe foods were at the perfect temperature. The crystal bowls glowed steadily, their energy patterns dancing in the air like silent music. Your guests will arrive in 30 minutes, Baum announced. All systems are functioning normally. The house temperature is ideal for both human and Luminarian comfort. Hei-yun stood in the middle of her grandmother's kitchen, feeling both nervous and excited. She had cooked for many different beings before, but never for creatures made of pure light. Would they truly be able to experience and appreciate the essence of her grandmother's recipes? As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light through the windows, Hei-yun remembered her grandmother's words. Food is a language that everyone can understand, even if they speak it differently. Tonight, she would test that wisdom in a way her grandmother could never have imagined. The first guests arrived just as the autumn sun touched the horizon. Do-hyun and Jaya walked up the stone path, followed by the Luminarian family. Hei-yun watched them through the kitchen window, her heart beating faster with excitement. The Luminarian family glowed with a gentle blue-white light that reminded Hei-yun of starlight. The parents moved with graceful dignity, while their two children darted about like playful shooting stars, leaving trails of light in the evening air. They paused to examine the falling autumn leaves with clear fascination. Welcome to my grandmother's farmhouse, Hei-yun said as she opened the door. The wooden floor creaked softly under Do-hyun and Jaya's feet, but the Luminarians floated slightly above it, their light casting beautiful patterns on the old walls. We are honored to join you, the Luminarian father said, his voice sounding like gentle wind chimes. His words were automatically translated by the house system. Our children have never experienced a traditional earth meal before. The Luminarian children moved closer to Hei-yun, their light brightening with curiosity. Is it true that humans gather energy by putting things into their bodies? One of them asked. The question was innocent and filled with wonder. Yes, Hei-yun smiled. We call it eating food. Tonight, you'll be able to experience it in your own way. She gestured to the crystal bowls on the table, where energy patterns danced in the air. More guests arrived soon after. Kita returned, bringing his scientific equipment to monitor the energy patterns. The old farmhouse filled with voices speaking different languages, all translated smoothly by Baum's systems. The Luminarian mother paused by the kitchen window, looking at the garden outside. Your plants gather energy from your sun, she observed, just as we do from our home star. Perhaps we are not so different after all. Hei-yun led everyone to the dining room, where cushions were arranged around the low table in the traditional Korean style. The human guests sat down, while the Luminarians hovered at a comfortable height above their cushions. Their gentle glow mixed with the warm light from the old paper lanterns, creating an atmosphere that felt both ancient and magical. Before we begin, Hei-yun said, I would like to share something my grandmother always said at special dinners. She picked up her grandmother's cookbook and read from the first page. At this table, there are no strangers. We are all family, brought together by the simple joy of sharing a meal. The Luminarian children brightened with excitement as they watched Hei-yun begin serving the food. Traditional dishes were placed before the human guests, while specially modified versions went to the other alien visitors. The crystal bowls in the center of the table glowed more intensely, their energy patterns becoming clearer and more complex. The energy signatures are perfect, Kita whispered to Hei-yun. The Luminarians will be able to experience every nuance of your cooking. Through the dining room window, Heyun could see the last rays of sunlight painting the sky in beautiful colors. Inside, the old farmhouse felt alive with warmth and friendship. Her grandmother had always dreamed of bringing people together through food. Now that dream had expanded to include beings from across the stars. As Heyun prepared to serve the first course, she felt deeply grateful. The farmhouse had always been a place where memories were made. Tonight, it would help create memories that would travel across the galaxy. The dinner began with traditional Korean soup, served in old ceramic bowls that Heyun's grandmother had treasured. Steam rose from the bowls like morning mist, carrying the warm scent of vegetables and herbs through the room. Do-hyun took the first taste and smiled with delight. "This tastes exactly like your grandmother used to make it," he said. Jae-yeon nodded in agreement, holding her spoon carefully as she enjoyed each sip. The Luminarian children watched with great interest as the human guests ate. Their own experience came from the crystal bowls placed before them. As the energy patterns rose from the bowls, their light changed color slightly, showing their reaction to the food's essence. "It feels like tasting starlight," the younger Luminarian child said, their form glowing brighter, but different, warmer like your sun in autumn. The house system translated their words into soft Korean, making everyone smile. Heyun served the next course, perfectly arranged plates of vegetables from both the traditional garden and the modern growing pods. For the human guests, there were crisp lettuce leaves and fresh vegetables. For the alien visitors, she had prepared special versions that were safe for their different biology. The crystal bowls created new patterns as Heyun added small portions of each dish. The energy signatures swirled and danced, showing the distinct flavors of each ingredient. The Luminarian parents moved closer to the patterns, their light dimming slightly in what seemed to be deep concentration. "Remarkable," the Luminarian father said. "We can sense the different energy patterns from each plant. It reminds us of how stars have different compositions." His words made Heyun think about how her grandmother would have loved learning about stars from beings who lived among them. Kaita watched his monitoring equipment with satisfaction. "The energy conversion is working perfectly," he told Heyun quietly. "Every flavor is being translated into patterns they can understand." The main course was Heyun's grandmother's special kimchi, served with rice cooked in the old stone pot. The modified version for the alien guests used ingredients from the special growing pods. When Heyun placed samples in the crystal bowls, the energy patterns burst into bright, complex shades. The younger Luminarian child spun with excitement, creating small spirals of light. "It's like a tiny star going supernova in my mind," they exclaimed. Their parent gently calmed them, but smiled at their enthusiasm. Throughout the meal, Mom played soft traditional music and kept the lighting perfect for both human and Luminarian comfort. The old wooden walls of the farmhouse seemed to glow with warmth from both the paper lanterns and the gentle light of their star-born guests. As they enjoyed the food, stories began to flow as naturally as the tea Heyun served. Do-hyun talked about fixing spaceships near distant stars. The Luminarian parents described their home star system, while their children asked endless questions about Earth customs and foods. Heyun watched it all from her place at the table, feeling deeply happy. Her grandmother had always said that a good meal was about more than just the food. It was about bringing people together. Now, in this old farmhouse where she had learned to cook, beings from across the galaxy were sharing not just food, but stories and friendship. The evening light outside faded into darkness, but inside the farmhouse, the warm glow of hospitality and understanding grew stronger with each dish served and each story shared. As the main courses came to an end, Heyun prepared for the final part of the meal. She brought out small bowls of traditional Korean sweet rice dessert, carefully modified for each type of guest. The crystal bowls created new patterns of gentle, sweet energy for the Luminarian family. The older Luminarian child moved closer to Heyun. "We have learned something important tonight," they said, their light pulsing softly like a heartbeat. "We thought Earth food was only about putting things into bodies for energy, but it is much more than that." Yun listened carefully as the house system translated the child's words. The younger Luminarian child joined their sibling, adding, "It is about being together, about sharing stories, and making memories, like when we travel through space as a family, watching the stars together." Do-hyun and Jae-ah smiled at these words. They had been teaching alien children at their school about Earth customs, but this was different. This was understanding that came naturally through shared experience. The Luminarian parents moved to the window, their light reflecting off the glass. Outside, the night sky was clear and full of stars. "Each star has its own story," the Luminarian mother said. "Just as each dish you served tonight had its own story. We can taste these stories in the energy patterns." Yun opened her grandmother's cookbook and showed it to her guests. "These recipes are like a map of my family's history," she explained. "Each one carries memories of the people who cooked it before me." The Luminarian children studied the old pages with interest, their light casting soft shadows on the handwritten notes. Kaita, who had been quietly monitoring his equipment, spoke up. "The energy patterns from tonight's dinner have created new data. We can use this to help more species experience Earth cuisine in their own unique ways." As if to demonstrate this, the crystal bowls began to create a beautiful light show. The energy patterns from all the evening's dishes combined into a flowing display that filled the room with gentle colors. The Luminarian children moved through the patterns, their own light mixing with the food's energy signatures. "Your grandmother's farmhouse has become a bridge between worlds," Jaya said to Hyun. "Not just through the food, but through understanding." The younger Luminarian child suddenly had an idea. They moved to the center of the room and began to create patterns of light that looked like the dishes Hyun had served. The other Luminarian child joined in, and together they put on a beautiful display of their own interpretation of Earth food. Everyone watched in wonder as the children recreated the entire meal in light and energy. They showed the soup as waves of gentle blue light, the vegetables as sparkles of green and gold, and the kimchi as bright bursts of colorful energy. Hyun felt tears in her eyes, but they were happy tears. Her grandmother had always said that food could speak without words. Now she understood this truth in a new way. Even beings who had never needed to eat could understand the love and care that went into preparing a meal for others. As the evening grew later, the old farmhouse held them all in its warm embrace. The wooden walls that had witnessed countless family dinners now witnessed something entirely new, a gathering that stretched beyond Earth, beyond physical food, to touch the very stars. The evening was drawing to a close. Outside the farmhouse, the autumn night was clear and filled with stars. Inside, the warm light of friendship glowed just as brightly as it had throughout the dinner. As the guests prepared to leave, the Luminarian family gathered near the old wooden table. The parents' light pulsed gently as they spoke. "In all our travels across the galaxy," the father said, "we have never experienced anything quite like this evening." The mother added, "We feed on the energy of stars, but tonight we have fed on something equally powerful, the energy of hospitality and friendship." Her words made Hyun think of her grandmother, who had always believed in the power of a shared meal. The Luminarian children had one last surprise. They moved to the center of the room and began to create complex patterns of light. The patterns took the shape of the farmhouse, complete with its garden and the stone path leading to the door. Then they added tiny figures of light showing everyone sitting around the table, sharing food and stories. "We will take this memory back to our home star system," the older child explained. "We will show others how Earth beings share energy and friendship through what they call food." Do-hyun and Jae watched the light display with wonder. "Your grandmother's recipes have now traveled farther than she could have ever imagined," Jae said to Hyun. "They have reached the stars themselves." Kaita carefully packed up his crystal bowls and monitoring equipment. "The data from tonight will help us create better ways for different species to share experiences," he said. "Your grandmother's farmhouse has become a place of scientific discovery, too." As the guests began to leave, Each thanked Yun in their own way. The human guests bowed traditionally. The Luminarian family created a beautiful display of light that danced around Yun like a gentle embrace. Their children left small stars of light floating near the ceiling, promising to return someday. After everyone had gone, Yun sat at the old kitchen table with her grandmother's cookbook. Bom's gentle voice filled the quiet room. "Would you like me to record tonight's events in the house memory?" the AI asked. "Yes, please," Yun replied, "and add a note to my grandmother's cookbook." She picked up a pen and wrote carefully on a new page. "Tonight, your recipes reached across the stars. Your farmhouse has become a place where all beings can feel at home, just as you always wanted." Yun looked around the kitchen. The old copper pots hung quietly from their hooks. The modern equipment sat peacefully next to traditional cooking tools. Everything felt right, as if the farmhouse had been waiting for this moment, when past and future, earth and stars, would come together around a shared table. Before going to bed, Yun walked through the garden one last time. The autumn air was cool and crisp. Above her, the stars seemed to shine more brightly than before. Perhaps, she thought, somewhere out there, the Luminarian children were already sharing their story of an earth dinner in an old farmhouse. Yun smiled, knowing that her grandmother's legacy would continue in ways that stretched beyond earth, beyond traditional food, and into the vast expanse of space itself. The farmhouse would remain a place where all beings could gather, share, and understand each other better through the universal language of hospitality.